Thanks for letting me do that.
You said that.
No doubt.
I know, I'm just trying to see what.
We'll get started in just a moment. We have a sign-in sheet. Will we pick them up? They're on the table. Those who'd like to speak in favor of the bill and those against, it's right there. So if you'll take time to go ahead, and we'll start in about 2 minutes.
Thanks very much.
Just gonna get warm in here fast. All right, here's our rules.
Yeah. All right, we'll call this meeting of the House Transportation Committee to order. We have quorum, it's noted. And to get us started, I'm going to call on Danny Mathis. You're 18 to say a word of prayer for us.
18. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for everyone here today and all their families. We just ask you to keep them safe. Father, help us to make good decisions, safety of our state, make critical decisions to help all the folks that we represent here in transportation and working people of this state. We thank you for that. We just ask you to continue to bless this state as you have and let us stay honorable to you. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, committee, first up, two things. We have a resolution in my hands that we'll pass around for you to sign. They're at our dinner the other night. We presented these, pre doing it to Madison Hendershot and Seth Milliken. The committee may not know, some may not know that both of them have. Well, one has changed service, and then one has left and went to work for Connor Poe at Northfork Southern. And Madison Hendershot has gone there. It's her third day at work. She's excited. She's had a great time, and we'll miss her greatly. And this one's her. I'm just going to pass it around. Y'all just keep it moving. And, of course, Seth Milliken, who's been the chairman of GTA the Georgia Transportation Alliance, over the last years has done incredible work for transportation across our state. And I think if you want to read them, you can, but I'm trying to get these so we can present them to them. So I'll start with you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I think you've already signed it.
That's what I want to check.
You know, some have already signed the front.
No, you didn't let me.
I didn't let you. I was wise. You know, your flourish thing. So the first bill we're going to hear, members, is Senate Resolution 7. And you'll see an amended version of it on your desk in your spot. I've got the full one here if you need to see it. You know, this is, if you remember back at the end on Sine Die last year, there was a little bit of confusion about getting the agrees and disagrees on a lot of bills. And this was one of them that got caught up into that. And this is our road naming from that last little bit. And these are all the bills that are included in Senate Resolution 7. And, you know, there was some concern about the way it came over from the Senate that really didn't give you, the members who have had a road naming, credit. So thanks to Jenna, we thank Miss Jenna always, kind of corrected it and dressed it up a little bit. And each one of them, each part, you know, will have, like the first one is, whereas the dedication of Dr. Robert Sullivan Memorial Highway was sponsored by Bo Hatchett as SR 583. So every one of them has that, so everybody gets the appropriate recognition. Mr. Vice Chairman made me aware of that, and we worked real hard on that. So I need, and Senator Dolezal would be here, but he is presenting a bill in the committee right now. So this bill is open for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion to pass by McDonald. Got a second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. None. Thank you. That'll be done. And you're going to love the sign change that we'll show it maybe next week that Josh Waller and I have been working on. I think you're going to like kind of the new road sign. Okay, next up, House Bill 164. I see Representative Meek, Chairman Meeks around here somewhere. Well, heck. Yeah. Well, let me just see where this gentleman is. He ought to be here. 1 second. Sorry. You can talk for a second. Meeks is on his way, his trusty assistant says. If y'all remember Andrew Smith, who is was our committee intern a few years back, works for Meeks. Number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in lieu of time, and I know Mr. Meeks is on his way. I mean, we got former Representative Nimmer in the audience. Maybe he can present this bill.
Well, we have.
I'm sorry. Oh, God, we couldn't do that.
I know that.
I'm breaking the rules. My bad.
He would probably jump over the seats to be able to do that. I would just be glad to do that. But I'll tell you what we'll do. And I think everybody knows what the bill is doing. We've got a bunch of lights flashing. We'll just hang on with it. We're going to let the testimony begin. And if does anybody have anything beyond that?
I was just going to
Wait a minute.
excuse me. I was just going to speak on SR7 that we just voted on, but last night reading over this and hearing the stories of these people and these great Georgians and what they did and accomplishments and all, it was rewarding to read those stories and to be able to vote for these recognitions.
Oh yes, sir. And I think it's when Abby and I go through them and look at them with Chairman Prince. You know, it is, and that's the honor we get to do, to honor our Georgians. Thank you for saying that. 13.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To that point, the Senate Resolution 7, the one I did for Corporal Dewey E. Ruiz, he was one of the prisoners of war that died in Korea, that they didn't find his remains until about 3 years ago through DNA testing, and they were sending them home, and we did the military service full funeral Well, he was the only child. The parents had long since died. So, the saying, all gave some gave all. That family gave all, and that was the most honored thing I've ever done, and was proud to do it.
And thank you, Chairman, and I want to thank GDOT. Even though these didn't get passed, they went ahead and honored your request to have that sign put up and made, and I thank you, Josh, and please pass that along to all the folks that y'all got that done for us. Representative Meeks, were you eating barbecue? No. Oh, me. We're teasing you. We're not that, Andy said you were on your way.
I apologize for being late, Mr. Chairman.
Floor's yours.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring to you today House Bill 164, LC 394500. As related to truck weights, Mr. Chairman, 2 years ago we undertook this this piece of legislation, and with the work of the committee was able to get it through to raise the truck weights to 88,000. The bill before you today simply removes the sunset on line 28. The additional language that you see in the bill, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, is just cleanup language to allow local law enforcement to continue. The provisions there on line, I guess it's page 3, line 56, 57, 58. Again, just cleanup language as we're going through the bill, Mr. Chairman. But in general, the bill as an efficiency bill for small businesses simply removes the sunset. Be happy to entertain any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any members looking over the bill have any questions for the Chairman Prince?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Meeks, for bringing this bill. Any we did this 4 times. That's why we're trying to extend that sunset. Any feedback from the local governments reference us actually raising that limit? I know going into a couple of years ago, we got a lot of possible complaints about the roads and things like that. How is that?
I've not had any specific complaints directed to me, Representative. I have tried to touch base with local communities to see. Obviously, DOT and the great work that they do did post some bridges, which is required by law. And even in talking to the forestry industry, the legislation has worked well. It's achieved its purpose, and actually taken, I do believe, some trucks off the road, so to speak, because you're able to haul a little bit more. So you do have a little bit less traffic. But I haven't had any specific complaints from communities, and I've tried to touch base with them to see, as it was being implemented, how that went. So,
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I know I'm new to the committee and appreciate the process. Just want to make sure I understand. This just maintains what we're doing and keeps us in parity with the states around us. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We do have some new members here that did not get to witness a 7-hour meeting 2 years ago. And
is that the record, Mr. Chairman?
It was for me. No, it was a study committee I had a few years ago was the record, but this one was pretty good. That's for sure.
I was told to text my wife over here.
Pardon me?
I was told to text my wife I'll be here to attend tonight. So I guess that's accurate.
Well, I wouldn't say that was a possibility, but Chairman Powell threatened me earlier today that if I went past his starting time, look at him. You're not recognized, sir. No, your button. You're not lit or recognized, sir. Till later, unless you have a question about the bill. No, Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, you and I have a long relationship on acronyms and been working with acronyms for about 4 years now, and had that very important piece of legislation which you supported strongly today. Appreciate your questions. But looking at line 32, it says the Department of Public Safety and local law enforcement authorized to issue a citation. With the MCCD, or hopefully the new commercial vehicle enforcement, they are trained on the specific type of inspection. You're saying local law enforcement, that they're authorized to issue a citation. Are they under the same training, to go through the same training to give these citations that MCCD or CVE?
That's correct. They were required to undergo training to be able to do that, yes, sir.
Okay.
And to your point, sir, if we need to change that in any way in terms of the legislation that you have, I don't know what that timing looks like, whether we need to change the name of the department or not, but I would suspect that just the Department of Public Safety would be sufficient.
I think that's fine. I was just curious more on the local law enforcement, if they're going outside their scope of issuing citations to commercial vehicles that they have not really been trained
Right,
on.
they would need to be trained.
Okay.
Chairman Meeks, just my question on that, similar to, on lines 97 through 103, it talks about what Vice Chairman's talking about. Do we know if any local law enforcement that has been trained?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Yeah, that's what I had heard too, just to verify that hadn't happened. Okay. So committee, any other questions? We'll hear some testimony. Also in your package, you've got got number 4, Mr. Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and always good to be now on the most populous committee in the House. Thank you, Chairman Meeks, for bringing us back, and certainly it's good to at least hash out all those differences in the past, so that we can at least. I don't think this is a huge lift. Just clarification. I know reading through it, noticing as a colleague, as the vice chair was noting, in terms of the citations the local law enforcement can be able to apply for when these trucks come through those local county roads. Is it for, just curious, for even, I know local county roads is within their their purview to be able to cite, but would it be the same for the state roads that come through kind of those counties, in terms of local law enforcement being able to regulate the speeds on those? Is that?
I would suggest that to be the case, but if we have anybody from Motor Carrier Compliance Division here, they can give a better answer, but I believe that would be the case.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, speed. Yeah,
Okay, Mr. Chairman, here seeing no other questions. Committee, you've also got a couple of handouts in your stack there by the lovely Abby Day, of those in favor of the bill. Okay, we'll move over to testimony now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members
Good
of the
job.
committee
Thank
for the
you for
consideration.
hanging out. We may have some work in a minute. Harry Sanders will be the first up.
Where would you like me here?
Yeah, there's perfect. Well, either one you want, it doesn't matter.
Sir?
Whatever you're most comfortable
Okay.
with.
I gotta shake my nervousness off now. All right. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harry Sanders, and I am from Cochran, Georgia. I've met some of y'all in the past because I've been here and done this a few years back. But for those that don't know me, I am a logger, and I'm a logger in Cochran, Georgia. So the name of our company is Sanders Logging, and I am a third-generation logger. So my dad logs with me today, and my granddaddy did as well whenever he was still alive. Just to kind of give you a little history on what we do for a living, if you don't really know a whole lot about logging, is, we're basically the ones that go into the woods and have the big equipment. In today's times, we cut the trees down. We've got the trucks that you load the trees on, and we haul the raw products to the mills to get made into many different things, okay? I'm 33, and my father is 75, so in my generation of logging's been a whole lot different than he is. And he is, he's probably seen it come the furthest and since he's been doing it, because when he started it, it was hard manual labor, chainsaws, short wood trucks, a lot of hard work. And now in today's time, It's really highly mechanized. We've got really big tractors that can pick the trees up all at one time and load the trucks, and it's just a whole lot different. So I've kind of come up a whole lot different in it myself. And I just kind of wanted to give you a little background on how it's changed altogether and what I'm having to deal with in today's time. So in my time, we're all about efficiency. And efficiency is key, in my opinion, on being a successful logging operation. And that's been hard to do because it's come to a place now to where the tractors are doing all they can pretty much do. We're doing all we can pretty much do. And by the rules and regulations, we're hauling all that we can. So it kind of boils down to the truck weights, right? So we're asking for 4,000 more pounds. It might not seem a lot to some people, but for me, my family, all the people that work with us, and all the surrounding communities that we work with or that we have to go through, it is a big deal for us. And I just wanted to express, in my opinion, on how important it's been for us to have this extra weight the last few years to haul with, and how I'd like to see it continue as well. I don't really have some long drawn out speech, or I've just wrote down some points and like some stuff that I see that, how important it is for me and my family to be able to do this every day. Everybody knows when they go to the grocery store right now, it seems like everything's done went up. Well, it's been the same way in the logging business. The tractors have went up, the diesel's up, and I just can't express how much this means to us to be able to haul this extra weight. And especially over the last few months since this hurricane, I'm down in places right now that I've never really logged too much in, because I'm trying to help some of the family and friends that I have in those areas try to recover that wood, and also to be able to haul this to the mill. And with that, like I said, that extra that weight, it just does us a wonder. I can get down in the details about how many more tons I can haul in a year, and how many less trips that if I haul 2 more extra tons, it will, decrease my actual trips. But the reality of it, me and a lot of my compadres that are in this business, we're struggling with some of this stuff. And one thing that we're struggling with is workforce. Trying to get people into logging trucks and forestry equipment has been a challenge that I have, and I'm probably going to continue to have, because it's, like I mentioned, my dad's 75, I'm 33. There's a gap in between there, and it's been a challenge to really try to get this younger generation like myself to kind of do what we do. It's hard work. It's long hours. But at the end of the day, you gotta love it, and I do. It's the one thing that my dad and I do together. I always tell people, when we used to say we'd go to the woods together, it wasn't because we were hunting and fishing, it's because we're going to log. I was on that stuff when I was 12 and 13 years old, working out there in the woods with him. And I'll get a little emotional, I don't mean to, but when you get older and your daddy gets older, you didn't understand it, why he had you working at 12 and 13 instead of like your buddies at Books A Million playing Pokemon. I was having out there, working in woods, but he taught me hard work, and I can't thank him enough, and I'm very thankful for each and every day that I have with him. And I appreciate all that y'all do as well for our state. And Mr. Danny, he represents us well in our community. But like I said, in my personal opinion, doing this for us is going to help me. It's going to help my family. It's going to help the many people that work in our industry. And it just connects everybody, all the communities, the stores, the other businesses, and all that. And 4,000 pounds doesn't sound like a lot to a lot of people, but it's a lot to me, and it's a lot to people in our industry. So, Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a comment and a question. Members, you're welcome to ask this fine gentleman a question also. And members, I think if you ever want to get a real representative of what a family business is in agriculture, you are a representative of it. And I personally have enjoyed getting to know you. Let's see. But how many families, most of the people that are in this side of the forestry business, are they family organizations, or are there big companies that do it, or is it, what's the breakout you think?
A lot of them are family businesses. The name on the side of that truck or that business is the last name of the ones that are running the tractors and operating the trucks and all that. So, it is like farming, in my opinion. You kind of your family has to marry the business too. It's a group effort and it's a community effort. A lot of the people that work with us, they're second and even third generations. Some are second generations to my dad. We recently just lost an employee this past summer. He had worked for 49 years with my dad. Wow. And he was one of my daddy's originals. Him and my daddy, he said that they got bit by a lot of the same yellow jackets out there, But his two sons work for me. They're a little bit older than me, but they've been with our company for 15, 20 years, and I've always been the young buck out there, like I just mentioned, that age gap, but a lot of the people that are out there, they're coming from logging families, or their families work with other family businesses, and that's the trouble we're trying to figure out off of truck weights, is trying to connect them dots to that younger generation to try to get them connected, to do what we do for a living. So,
thank you, Harry. I see no questions. Well, I do have number 18 just popped up.
Yeah, I got to respond to Little Harry, is what I call him. His daddy was Harry, his granddaddy was Mr. Harrell, and I've known this family my whole life. They're a great family logging organization. I appreciate logging. I had a granddaddy was a sawmiller, and when we were going through this, and I can't say enough, Chairman Jaspers and Chairman Meeks, when they carried this a couple of years ago, that was a pretty stressful time, and I've seen how it's really helped loggers, and I think there's some more we can do, and I want to do that. I want to be safe, but to attest to you, in our area down there, Chairman Jaspers, you asked about family business. We have several big families that run logging operations in our area, and we're all in Middle Georgia. And I just can't say enough, and I've got to know several others in this business through the testimonies and through the things, and these are quality people, and they are the people that make this state run. And we as legislators, we have got to stay on top of this to help these folks, whether it be this part of agriculture or whatever part it is to make sure that we look after all our folks, because that's, to me, is what's generating everything in this state. And I can't say enough good things about the logging industry. I can't say enough about the folks in my area. I realize that truck weights can be bad on roads, but that's what makes the roads. So I just want to let you know I appreciate what you said, appreciate what you do, and I hope that we as a committee and a legislature can make sure we keep you at the forefront in any trucking industry to make sure it's safe, but it helps you survive and do and thrive. So I thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative Mathis. Harry, tell us about your book.
Well, I brought a book today, and I didn't realize that we had so many people on the committee, but if y'all are interested in getting this book, I will be more than happy to send you a copy. I have a friend, and her name is Stephanie Fuller, and she's from Alabama, and she is doing an awesome job over there in Alabama with workforce development in her state. And what she's got is a book that she's wrote. It's a little mini series, but the one that's near and dear to my heart is Lucy Meets a Logger. And the reason why that I got this book and I wanted to share it with y'all is because to me, this is a little piece, a little seed that we can plant in a lot of this younger generation on learning about a logger or seeing something that they might not normally see and want to ask questions about it. So she made these books, and I ordered a whole bunch of them, and some of the stuff I like to do, I like to go speak to schools, elementary schools, just do little things like that, or if one of my friends, they're having a baby of some sort or a little birthday party, I'll write a little message in there for their birthday and give it to them because, when I grew up, we got books. It really didn't have, we kind of on the early end of the technology thing, but and I really cherish books, plus they're made out of paper, which is also trees, right? So, but this book right here is a little short story on Lucy, and she meets the logger. And it's just a little, detailed little thing about, what they're doing and what the products are made out of. And I wanted it to share with y'all because I recognize a lot of y'all's faces, but, you might be in areas that there's not a lot of logging going on, but, and might be a lot of logging. And y'all might have kids or grandkids that I hope you want to read this to them or something like that. And but I didn't bring enough today, but I promise you, if you want one, I'd be more than happy to send y'all one. And just wanted to share that.
Well, thank you. I think it's a great book. We just kind of glanced through it. We look forward to looking at it better. Thank you for being a very helpful person. I believe that's Mr. Wade down on the end.
I think we've got a really good opportunity. I think the First Lady of the House might like this logging for literacy. I think that's good too.
Oh, they're logging for literacy. I like that. Because it is all books, just like you said. Number 4, Mr. Holly.
Mr. Chairman, I would thank you. I think just for the sake of your dear loved one, if it would be okay for us to be able to just hold up the book and be able to salute her with a hand clap for her hard work efforts.
Yeah, hold up your book there. There's be a clap for there. Yay. Is that what you meant? Oh. Thank you. Next up, Jake Matthews, Georgia Forestry Association.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jake Matthews with the Georgia Forestry Association. There's really nothing that I could say that'll follow up very well what Harry just did. He's very well spoken and speaks from the heart too. But we did want to take the opportunity just to come before all of you, let you know how much it's meant, following on what Harry just said, for our industry, what you all did in 2023 with House Bill 189, and how much it means to our membership, the folks that live in it and work in it every day. That this piece of legislation were to move forward and continue what they've been doing over the past 2 years, and really longer than that, if you look at some of the executive orders that were in place throughout that period of time. There's certainly a lot of interesting things going on in the forestry world right now that make it difficult already. And then, of course, as everyone already knows, all those things really got just pushed to the next level after the hurricane. And there were some executive orders in place after the hurricane that even had a higher tolerance than what this bill does, and that was extremely helpful. But we would just ask for your favorable consideration on this bill to keep what we have in place and be able to continue doing what we've been doing. So be happy to answer any questions, but again, just thank you all for what you do.
I see no questions. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate you. Mike? Georgia Poultry Federation.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mike Giles. I'm president of the Georgia Poultry Federation. We represent poultry growers, poultry companies, and allied industry in Georgia, which is the nation's leading broiler producing state. As I was thinking about what to say today, because we've been in this setting many times talking about truck weights, I really wanted to recall the testimony that we gave in 2023 when House Bill 189 was adopted. I said at that time, and I still believe it's true, that increasing the allowed weights for these trucks as small as it is, only 4,000 pounds, was the most significant policy legislative action that could be taken by the legislature at that time to immediately improve our efficiency and competitiveness. And I still believe that's true. We also testified that if allowed to carry 4,000 more pounds on our feed trucks and our live haul trucks, that it would reduce the number of trips on our roads. And it has in the numbers of tens of thousands of trips. And it would reduce the fuel costs and emissions that are associated with them, and reduce the strain on our workforce development when we're challenged by trying to find commercial truck drivers, which has been mentioned before. We testified in 2023 that if the bill passed, that we had the potential to save between 8 and 12% of all the trips that we take. And I'm not talking about the trips of finished product, but this is to raise the bird, feed, and the live haul trucks. Now, in the real world, getting 100% utilization on anything is really impossible, and there's a number of reasons that in some cases we can't fully utilize the additional weight, and I'll touch on those in just a moment. But I have surveyed members, all of our members recently, and confirmed what I believe that I know is that it is being widely adopted by our members. It is saving money, making them more efficient, and reducing the number of trips that tractor trailers are taking on our roads. The most notable reasons that when it isn't used is one, there are some trips where it makes more sense to travel on an interstate for a short period of time, and in that case, we're limited by the federal weight limit, which is 80,000 pounds. Of course, that's just a business decision on what is best and the most efficient way to reach the farm. Sometimes in our smaller companies are growing smaller birds, chickens. There's a limit to how many birds you can actually load on a trailer, and that becomes a limiting factor. But I think the most notable one, and I think it relates really to a sunset provision, is that a number of my companies are not able to utilize the full increase in weights because of the designs of the trailers. A feed trailer, for example, might not be able to accommodate 88,000 pounds gross weight. And when a company is making a decision on whether to invest in new equipment, knowing that there's a sunset there's just too much uncertainty. And so there is, while it's being widely adopted, I have a number of companies that are waiting for it to become permanent, so that as they start replacing equipment, that they will be able to utilize by tractor trailers or trailers that are designed to handle more gross weight. Some other advantages, we mentioned workforce, but I also want to mention disaster response, as was mentioned earlier today. When you're disrupted by a disaster, and it could be a hurricane, it could be a snowstorm, ice storm, you only have so much capacity to deliver a product in a 24-hour period, and so knowing that if we were to revert and go back to 84,000. You're reducing your capacity to respond to emergencies and catch up after disasters. So all of that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. I appreciate your consideration, and we ask for your favorable approval of House Bill 164. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. I think the most telling thing is that the investment that the poultry industry has to make in a new trailer to haul. I just have two things. I just want to, in the Ag Committee, we've talked a lot about AI and avian influenza, but y'all's response, along with agriculture and the outbreak we had here, is stellar. I know there's been a lot of planning. Avian influenza has been around since I was a county agent, and we've talked about it way back then, but your response and the industry's response was stellar.
Thank you.
And stopping it and the spread of it. I just want to say that again out here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I just want to thank the governor. I'm sure they're listening right now that, making sure during the disaster they increased it to be able for all the different industries to be able to move quicker, heavier, safely throughout the state.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've appreciated the state support of our poultry labs and the Georgia Department of Agriculture and the relationships that we've had with them in this response. We've hit the milestones when we were supposed to and contained this outbreak. And so we planned a lot ready, but we'd never actually done it on the ground. And so we learned some things, but it's been a good experience.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Jake Tinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jake Tinch for Georgia Agribusiness Council. I just want to say I appreciate all of the discussions and work that's been put into this over the last couple of years. And recently, UGA released their new Ag Impact study that shows that agriculture has a $91 billion impact on the state. And that's a large number, but that large number doesn't necessarily describe all of the struggles within the industry in the last few years. And something like this, being able to use this weight for the last few years has really allowed us to combat some of those things, whether it be driver shortage, increase in efficiency. We're always looking for things, and we just want to get up here and say that we're fully supportive of this measure. Thank you for all your work again, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Number 2 is Chairman Prince.
Yeah, thank you. And what about you? And you talked about the research that you guys did.
Yes, sir.
Did you guys do any research that show has, for lack of better words, have we increased productivity, or has it just remained stable even though we've allowed this?
I would say that production has probably remained stable. Getting rid of all external things, whether it be economic disaster, natural disaster. But as far as efficiency goes, we talked about fewer trips, driver shortages, that thing. We've obviously seen an immediate impact on those things.
See no others.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Adam Bellflower, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you all for letting us be here today. My name's Adam Bellflower, work for Georgia Farm Bureau. We represent producers all across the state and across every commodity. Our focus is working with you all to try to put our farmers and our producers across the state in a place where they can be successful. This has been said multiple times today, but legislation like this helps our guys, increases their efficiency on the farm. For us and a lot of our producers, when it comes to harvesting, that's where we've seen the greatest impact of this legislation. When you have to get a crop out of the field, you have to do it then, and you have to do it in a hurry. A lot of times you're battling a lot of things that are out of your control, like weather, and with increasing the efficiency, allowing them to get their crops out of the field quicker and moving more product at a time, it helps them when time is a crunch and they are really working under the clock. Legislation like this has been very beneficial to them. I've heard from a lot of members the past couple of years, and I know this has already been said, but this has been one of the most immediate benefits that they have felt on the farm in terms of the day after you pass this legislation or the season after you pass this legislation. They saw immediate impact and positive impact. So I just want to tell y'all thank you for that. Thank you for considering this again this year, and we hope that the committee will support this as it moves forward through the process.
Well, you tell Chairman McCall that we said hey.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate what you do, for sure. Okay, that's the end of anybody is speaking for, and I'm not going to say speaking against, but informing us. I'll change it, is Meg Perkle with GDOT. And many members may not know this lovely, you can, from here, the middle, whatever you like, ma'am.
Can I click it with this if it's over here?
No. Don't ask me. I hope. You got Josh there, you know. And if you're new to the committee, you may not know the gentleman at the podium, Josh Waller, who is the right-hand man to both of these folks, to Russell McMurray and Meg. And would you take just a minute, because a lot of people, I know you, but may not know about you, where you came from, where you worked. how you attained the great position of, chief engineer.
So Meg Perkle.
Whoops, I'm sorry. I didn't turn you on. Sorry, Meg.
Thank you. Meg Perkle, Chief Engineer at GDOT. I've actually been at GDOT about 35 years. I went to Georgia Tech to get my master's in civil, went to Vanderbilt for my undergrad. I've worked in a lot of different offices in GDOT, and I've been the chief engineer for 10 years. And it's been a great place to work. So I also have with me the state structural engineer, Don Digman. So
Great. We're trying to get your video up.
Oh, yeah. Is it showing?
Just, turn it on.
Y'all do have copies in front of you, so. Okay.
Hang on just a second.
I'll go ahead and start talking.
Yeah, sure.
though.
You've got
Okay.
a handout on your.
Great.
You got her.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to be here. Just to give an opportunity to talk about GDOT's role since the passage of HB 189 in 2023, our role, responsibilities, and actions since then. I know that in 2024, we've seen unprecedented damage to the agriculture and timber industry in Georgia due to Hurricanes Debbie and Helene and the floods, and so understand the importance of agribusiness to Georgia and that a lot of people are still recovering. So, okay. Whoops. There we go. So this slide is just a quick reminder of what changed when HB 189 became law in 2023 as it relates to truck weights. It applied a 10% variance to the gross vehicle weights of 80,000 pounds and to the axle weights for single and tandem axle trucks. This was an increase of the 5% variance that was allowed previously. It excluded metro Atlanta counties. It added some new commodities that were allowed to be carried at this variance weight, and it allowed the local law enforcement. And just as a reminder, during COVID, there was an executive order that allowed trucks to carry heavier weights, but they had to have a special permit to do so. And with this law, they don't need a permit to do that if they're carrying the applicable commodities. So once the governor signed HB 189 into law on May 3rd, 2023, that started a clock for GDOT to get into compliance with federal regulations. So this slide shows excerpts from the letter we received from Federal Highway Administration explaining the process we had to follow as defined in federal law. So from May 3rd, GDOT had 3 months to update the load rating on all bridges statewide. So to define load rating, it's for an engineering analysis that determines the maximum safe carrying capacity of a bridge. Essentially, the engineers calculate how much weight a bridge can safely support based on its current condition, which is based on field inspection data and the original bridge design. And then they determine if the bridge needs to be posted with weight restrictions or not. So once these load ratings were completed, we determined 733 additional bridges in Georgia needed to be posted. And so to define posting, in case you're not familiar with that term, a weight posting sign is installed to display the maximum safe weight of a vehicle on the structure. Since there are a number of different vehicle types and sizes and shapes and axle configurations, each legal load has to be individually analyzed so that they can be specified on the sign. So by the end of July, we had notified all local governments and our own GDOT district offices which bridges needed to be posted, and they had a deadline of September 3rd to get all signs in place, about 1,500 signs. So by September 2nd, all signs had been posted, and we were able to verify this with the local governments. We notified the Department of Public Safety of these new in-place postings so that they would have that for enforcement and for oversized, overweight truck routing. This slide just shows how many bridges in Georgia were posted with weight limits prior to the increase with HB 189. You can see 41 state-owned and around 1,300 local bridges. With HB 189, we added 733 bridges to be posted, so that added about 306 state bridges and 427 local bridges. This does impact truck routing on state routes because they are the primary routes for truck traffic. So this map shows just the final total of where we now stand for posted bridges in Georgia. And the sign shown there is an example of a bridge that's posted for 80,000 pounds. And since there are a number of different vehicle shapes and sizes, you can see they're all shown there on the sign. To further understand the impact of HB 189, GDOT initiated a research project. When we evaluated HB 189 as it was proposed in 2023, we had to assume the worst case. So now that it is state law, we need to determine the real impacts of the increased weights so we can best plan our future needs for maintenance of the system. We solicited this research with UGA to collect data and model the degradation of the transportation system. This will allow us to better predict the needs for strategic investments to maintain Georgia's infrastructure. The overall duration of this study is 3 years, and we are only 1 year into it. It's going to take us some time to get fully vetted info and develop more reliable models for impact and degradation, ultimately to better inform our decision-making. It's hard to measure the immediate impacts to the infrastructure because the impacts take time. We inspect each bridge every 2 years. So we've only inspected bridges once, and that's not even all the bridges yet, because it will be May when it will be 2 years since HB 189 passed. With this study, we're using strain gauges on the bridges and actually measuring the cracks in the bridges and how the cracks change and react when a truck travels over the bridge. And we also collect the weight data. So just to recap, we'll continue monitoring the impacts of these bridges. We're going to add some county roads to this study at the request of ACCG. And then we'll develop degradation curves to better understand the change in bridge life cycle. And this will allow us to, estimate the financial impact over time. And the weight data will also allow us to determine the impact to pavements as we see how they are, degrade as well. So this slide just shows data from one of the weigh in motion sensors. You can see from the red shaded area, the blue line shows weights in 2020, and the red line is in 2023 following the passage of the bill. And you can see that trucks are taking advantage of the heavier weights allowed by HB 189. For your information, I want to share GDOT's annual capital investment in bridges. The funds programmed here are for bridges identified as needing replacement due to deteriorating structural condition. So many posted bridges are still in good structural condition, but they are posted because they weren't designed to handle the current legal weights. So if you think about the bridges that were additionally posted, it cost average about $5 million to replace a bridge, so you can do the math to see that it would be billions to replace everything that had been newly posted. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to review GDOT's activities following the passage of HB 189. Because impacts to infrastructure occur slowly over time, more time will allow us to more fully evaluate the data and understand the specific impacts to the roads and bridges. And with a more comprehensive understanding, we can better project the impacts to the life cycle of our infrastructure and the corresponding investments required to maintain our roads and bridges. Keeping our highways maintained up to our state's good standards of condition will make this a win-win for Georgia. And I'm finished.
Thank you, Meg. It's, as I hope you just saw, that was as I was meeting with Commissioner yesterday, who is off on another trip helping us in transportation's proactive. Looking at the measurement, he went through a lot with me on the slide of the bridges of how exactly they're doing the measurements. That's what I thought I learned a lot about how that works. I know that there's a couple of our members last year in the 7-hour meeting.
That was 2 years ago.
It's been a while. Brought this specific issue up, and then how would we know? What do we know? And y'all looked at a number of different ways of doing this, and I appreciate that y'all doing that. And my last comment on this is, again, it's something that we as a committee and others must look at. How we increased maintenance budget. Because that's where this is at. I mean, all across. We got 2 spots for y'all. Right here, right here. Come join us. must increase our maintenance budget to be able to do this across the state and make it better. Got 2 questions. 17, you were first. That is Representative Cox.
Thank you for presentation. Question, how many state bridges are there in Georgia, roughly?
It's about 14, state bridges, 7,000.
Okay. So my question is, out of these that were chosen, how were they chosen over the others, and how do we know what the other bridges, how they're looking? And that's kind of the, and forgive my ignorance, I wasn't here before, so.
So the bridges that were selected.
Okay.
The bridges selected for the study were just based off of likely volumes where you would see that kind of truck traffic. They also worked to identify corridors that are likely to see House Bill 189 impacted trucks, as opposed to containerized trucks, which have a federal exemption. So it was trying to ensure that it was reflective of what the expected law change that we saw for 2023. So certainly there's a lot more bridges than there is. That technology, the way in motion technology is not cheap. And so there had to be a strategic decision to find those bridges they thought would be the most impacted. So looked at traffic volumes, locations, likelihood that you would have that kind of truck traffic.
For those commodities that are allowed to.
Was there any, in this time frame since then, any problems with some of these bridges being able to handle the capacities, or how did that lay out from y'all's analysis?
No. I mean, we selected bridges that can accept that legal load of 88,000 pounds. I mean, those we want those to be the bridges that we're analyzing.
Okay.
Just to follow up on Representative Cox's, Josh, or Meg, either which one can answer. Did y'all have some bridges that you picked as controls so that are not, heavy use, or just that we see the normal wear and tear?
So we're, as the chief engineer said, we're still in the first year of it, and we're bringing more sites on. They are different. I'm just trying to think through. There are some locations that have different volumes, but not necessarily a control that you inherently knew. Well, we don't think there would be any trucks over there. So to the answer, there's no, because
or just the normal.
The goal was trying to see, because when the chief engineer said with those string gauges, you're able to see the moment that truck goes over, what that impact is. That's really the kind of data you're getting. So the value of a control isn't necessarily as powerful as you might think. It's more you're looking at the precise impact in that moment in time when that truck is crossing.
Sure. Thank you. Next, number 9 was Vice Chairman Hagan, but Chairman Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do miss it. You mentioned earlier that trucks are allowed to travel at 100,000 pounds if they purchase a permit. So how much is that permit?
So during COVID, there was an executive order that allowed trucks to travel at that heavier weight.
That's no longer in place?
That's no longer in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, that expired right before this was.
Okay. Chairman Corbett, 13.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Purple. I guess my question, is there any way to differentiate the 3 years at the 95,000 pound executive order versus the 88,000 and the damage to the roads? How do we differentiate, what the executive order at 95 versus the Chairman Meeks' bill at 88?
I don't know that there is, because this research was started after this passage. But the data we're collecting is going to be for any strain that's put on that bridge, no matter, and then we're collecting the weight of the truck. So we can see the weight of the truck and then how that crack reacted when the truck crossed the bridge, regardless of the weight of the truck. So whether it's at the max weight or at below, well below. So I think that you'll have data from all different sizes of trucks, and you'll be able to gauge how the cracks in the bridge react to those weights.
Answer your question?
Yes.
Chairman? Okay. Number 4, Mr. Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Burkle, for being here. And I think between you, I might actually be giving Josh a little bit of an exercise because he's popping up and down from that seat. But it's necessary. I was, curious. In your presentation, you're saying basically within the 2 or 3 year time span, it's kind of tough to be able to ascertain exactly when those cracks might form.
It's not form, it's
Okay.
how they react to the strain.
To the strain that's being put on them.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I was noticing, like on page 6, and I've seen that, since 189 was actually enacted, that you'd have this 746% increase. Is that an increase in terms of those that are added onto there because of the strain that you were able to identify?
Those are based on the load ratings.
Mhm.
So if you look at the slide or a couple previous, we had 41 state bridges that were load rated. And then following, we had to add another 306 state bridges that were load rated. And that was a 740% increase in the number of bridges on the state system that had to be load rated. So that's not a reflection of condition at all. That's just the load.
This is the load rating?
Yes. Mhm.
And further, okay, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, please.
For the, it's good for you all to be able to maintain this. How consistent are the local county areas where these trucks are being offloaded on to, in terms of actually being able to keep up with their roads, whether or not the strain has actually hit them, or is it because it's good for you too, but I know that especially go throughout like a lot through rural Georgia, you may not necessarily have the pavements at the same same integrity level as those on terms of the state roads. Have you been able to see that in terms of actually? I'm curious because enforcing that, making sure that the weight of the trucks that are traveling on these local roads, if they're actually being identified in the same manner as you're having to do for a lot of these state roads.
Well, I can't speak as to how they're identified and enforcement of that, but in Georgia, we are one of the states that actually we inspect all bridges in the state, local bridges as well, and so we will be inspecting all local bridges. We would never leave a bridge open that is unsafe. And as far as impacts to the pavements at the local level, that would really have to be answered by GMA or ACCG, but I'm sure they'll see some, that's just normal.
Okay, thank you.
But
Good. Next up, number 24, I think that's Mr. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Meg. Good to see you. When a new bridge is built on a state route, what capacity is that bridge built to?
I want to say 100,000. Yeah,
100,000
around 100,000 pounds.
And can I follow up with one?
Please,
Mr.
yes,
Chairman?
sir.
Yeah. So during COVID, when we increased that, I believe it was 95,000, we increased that truck weight. How long did that run? Was it 12, 18 months, 18 or 24 months? Or?
I want to say it was 18 to 24 months, something
Right.
like that. And you did have to have a permit to do so.
Right. During that period, were there a number of bridges that, during your inspection process, and I know that was kind of random because you try to do it every 2 years, but were there a number of bridges that had to be closed because of that increased truck weight, or would you know?
No, but I wouldn't expect that either way. I mean, the impacts happen over time. It's not like a bridge is going to have one time a truck go over it and it's going to all of a sudden be degraded. It happens over time with fatigue and with the strain that happens that we're measuring now. So I'm not aware of any bridges that, I know we didn't have to close any bridges during that time.
Okay.
At least not state route bridges.
Okay. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I want to follow up on what Representative Smith said, Meg, just a little, chase a rabbit that's always been in my mind over the port traffic. There can be up to 100,000 coming out, sealed load, all that good stuff. Do we, when we're doing this bridge testing, are we looking at those two Is there a way? There's no real way to identify them, I would think.
Well,
but
the weigh in motion sensor will be triggered and it takes a picture, like I showed on that one slide. It takes a picture, so we would see if it's a containerized truck or
okay,
not.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah,
Because I was wondering if you'd see that dramatic difference in the
there you go.
in the spike in the weight that we see here. I just
Yeah.
because I'm sure some of these bridges are getting that. I think number 8.
That is a
Chairman
small
Thomas.
percentage, though, of the traffic coming out of the port is at that weight.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions about slide 8, if you want to flip it. One of the claims, I guess is the word I'm going to use, one of the claims of of industry is that by increasing this weight, you also reduce the number of, I guess, cycles or number of runs over it. And it looks like, I mean, I know that there's a shift over here at the 80,000 kips forward, but have you seen that? Because the way I'm reading this is it looks like there has been an actual reduction in the amount of trips over the bridges.
I don't know that we've actually analyzed that yet. That would be part of what we could look at with this research. I know that statewide traffic volumes have, been increasing since COVID and have kind of leveled off with pre-COVID levels.
Yeah, and fatigue failure is a mix of not only the load but also the number of cycles, and that's the reason why. I'm in total agreement with you that obviously you can tell by this that the load has increased. I'm just curious where the cycle component of that and how that.
I mean, we do collect truck volume data, which is the number of trucks, so the number of trips that trucks are making. So we would definitely be able to see if those reduce.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to know that piece of information. I think it'd be really helpful. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, number 25, Mr. Clifton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you said that these bridges are designed at 100,000 pounds.
Currently, today, when we replace a bridge, that's about the weight we go for.
Okay, what's the typical safety factor for a bridge when it's being designed?
For the older ones, you're probably looking at.
If you would, you'll have to go to the microphone
Yeah.
so everyone can hear you.
So for our typical bridges, it'll probably be 2, but you got to look at this. Some of these were built or designed in an older era, so they had a certain type of factor of safety. We've recalibrated for a new design, so it's still about the same, but they were also, for the older bridges, looking at a lighter truck that we were designing for.
Okay, so just to be clear, the new, while they are being designed at 100,000, I guess you could argue they're being designed at 200,000 with the safety factor. You back it down to 100,000 to be safe and make sure there's not extraneous load on these bridges.
You could say that, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Number 9, Chairman Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have another question for you. I'm looking at slide 5. Of the 733 new bridges that were posted, were they all because of the 4,000 additional pounds, or were there other reasons for some of them?
Well, it was because of the change, but it's not just 4,000, it's also by the axle, because we have to look at the variation, the 10% variation also can occur by axle. So looking at different configurations of trucks, some of the postings may be because of the total gross weight, but some may be because of different axle configurations. But it's all because of the 10% variance.
It's all because, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Number 29, Floor Leader Wade.
Thank you very much. When you answered the question about, I think, to Vance Smith's question, Rep. Smith, were there any local bridges that were deemed, I guess, not usable for a period of time that have been replaced since, or just out of curiosity, what's that process like, and do you have a rough number?
I don't think there were. I don't know off the top of my head. But usually if there is a local bridge that needs to be closed, it happens very rarely. I mean,
Closures in that time period locally.
yeah. But what we do is we notify.
Less than a dozen, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we notify the local government
Okay.
that they need to go out and put up barriers, and it can impact whether or not they can receive state and federal funds.
Okay, and then
Until they get that done.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. Do you know if in that process there are some forgive me for being a novice, but kind of not necessarily in the red zone, but in the yellow zone as a warning, do you guys give them a heads up that, hey?
Either it's posted
Okay.
and it says what loads can safely travel, or it's closed.
Okay, so it's just a pass
Yeah,
fail.
there's no,
Okay.
hey, this is getting bad, and yeah.
Okay,
It's either
thank you.
posted and you can safely travel at those weights, or it's closed.
I want to follow up on Florida's question just a little bit. Do we ever see people using LMIG for bridge reconstruction?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I think most of it's used for pavements.
Yeah, I'm just
but
curious, my thing.
Yeah.
Next up, Mr. Thomas, number 8.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on the factor of safety. Typically, you see larger factors of safety in older bridges because there wasn't as good of material craftsmanship at the time, and that's always been my understanding. Would that be safe to? I mean, in 1950, I don't think you can trust the metallurgy quite as much as you can in 2025. Is that the reason why they had a higher factor of safety back then?
There's that, and again, it's just how we change our codes. But I go back, it was designed for a lighter truck, so as we progress and get these heavier trucks, simply those older bridges won't be able to handle those configurations.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hawley.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Conversation just made me think. Do you actually have from the time that HB 189 has been enacted up to now, been able to track about how much have local county governments been able to, how much of the LMIG have they been able to apply to some of those bridges, at least to be able to put them back on top?
I mean, I don't know if we track that in any way. They send us a list of what they're going to do, and then we send them the money, but I don't think we track it as to whether that work is because of this or, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that was the last. Any other questions by members? This fine lady. Thank you, Meg. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll bring the bill sponsor, Mr. Meeks, back up. And we had a number of people, there's like 9 meetings going on right now across the buildings. If I asked the chairman if he would just take a minute and review the bill for those who just came in.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee for the great conversation, and for the department of coming and giving some data on what they have seen in the increase in truck weights, which is what House Bill 164 does. Many of you know that over the past several years, during the event of an emergency or emergency declaration, that the governor has the ability to raise truck weight limits. We have run under those exemptions for quite a while, as you have heard, and we were able to raise the truck weight limit 2 years ago that would help provide some additional efficiencies for producers of wood across our state and the agriculture community. In talking to Motor Carrier Compliance Division and others, from what they've seen, the data has been positive in that the sole issue of weight has not been the cause of crashes, and not seeing an increase in those. So I think our producers, and many of you know that as producers circle out old trucks and buy new trucks, trucks are being built differently these days. They have disc brakes instead of drum brakes, which makes the stopping distance a lot greater. I've talked to a couple of logging organizations and haulers that have said the biggest impact, and this has been confirmed also by Motor Carrier, that the greatest impact is on driver actions. So we've had some of the logging crews to start their days with safety meetings and reminding drivers, how to handle trucks in the event something goes wrong. One of them told me the other day that down in southeast Georgia, on one of the state highways, low shoulder, and he had a safety meeting that morning, and his driver told him, he said, whatever you do, don't snatch it, don't react in a way that's going to cause the load to shift. He walked away from the incident. They had to pick up the logs, and the truck was still upright. But through the actions of many of these haulers that are running forestry products up and down the road, including our farmers, it says driver education, reminding drivers, okay, safety is number one. But Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to bring this bill back before the committee, and ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 164.
We just have one question, Mr. Hawley, if you don't mind.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Meeks, so Chairman Meeks, heard in the prior discussions from the questions asking for GDOT, was referred to persons who are with GMA or ACCG with regard to whether the local counties will be able to address the speed across kind of the entrances, not just for the county roads, but for those state roads, the portions of which actually run through the counties. Are you familiar? Has there been, have the local law enforcement actually been able to monitor that? And the only reason I bring that up is because even though the speeds may be set, just because the integrity of those local roads may not be up to par to match the state roads, sometimes it might be helpful for the local law enforcement to be able to maybe scale down maybe the speeds so that there is maybe less a breakup of the roads. Are you familiar with any word from ACCG or GMA whether they've been able to, I guess, effectively reduce probably the pressures upon the roads because they've been able to modify the speed of those state roads going through their local counties?
Sure. I haven't had any conversations with either of the two organizations or haven't heard anything regarding that.
Well, if I see the gentleman from both organizations. Would y'all comment or not? You'll need to go to the microphone, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Jaspers, members of the committee. My name is Dante Handel with ACCG, joined here by Noah Reynes with GMA. To your question about enforcing speed, I believe local law enforcement is able to enforce speed on those roads, same as they would now. None of that's changed by this bill.
Okay.
The only thing that would be different would be they need additional training in order to be able to enforce the weight limits, and they'd also have to have scales for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you on the spot there,
Thank
taking care of that.
Thank you.
Okay, committee, we're in a position to move on this bill in a moment. I did not receive any amendments in the 2-hour time limit, so there will be none. So I would like to call on Vice Chairman Emeritus, Mr. Wiedauer.
Mr. Chairman, my chairman, I also miss being the vice chair of this committee. I do appreciate the dialogue, appreciate the measure, and Chairman Meeks. I would like to make a motion to pass.
So we have a motion to pass. We have a second. The number of seconds. Okay, what we'll do a hand show and count. Vice Chairman and Ms. Day will count. All those in favor, please raise your hand. We're not going to forget about you.
I got 27.
Did you count yours?
There we go.
Oh, I missed Scoggins. Okay, there we go. I forgot to vote. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, boy.
I'm glad the vote tally's right.
Those
Vice Chair Emeritus, too.
Those opposed, are there any? I seeing none. Great job, Chairman Meeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you in the industry. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Oh, when we do have, those of y'all who came in late, I have the two resolutions for Madison Hendershot and Seth. I need y'all to sign. I have them right here.